Dreams Unzipped, where you uncover the beauty of your dreams to reveal the truth of who you are. And I am Kelly Sullivan Walden, Dr. Dream, taking off my glasses for a moment. I'm now the non-Superman version of myself. And my website is kellysullivanwalden.com, and I'm so happy to get to connect with you all today. I have a very special guest that I'm very excited to share with you. He's one of my favorite dream people on the planet. He absolutely inspires me. He's a hero of mine. He is Dr. Jeremy Taylor. He's a Unitarian Universalist. He's a minister who leads workshops and seminars all over the globe. He also works with individuals and small groups. A major focus of his teaching is the role of projection and shadow. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. He's the founder and past president of the International Association for the Study of Dreams and the author of 4 books on dreams. After 40 years of work in the field of Jungian psychology, dream work, social justice, world mythology, cultural change, and the archetypal realm, he's convinced that all dreams come in the service of our health and our wholeness. He continues to be intrigued and surprised by the multiple layers of meaning present in every dream. His website is jeremytaylor.com. And one of his books, he's got many, many books, and I'm going to show them to you in a moment once we get this interview started. One of them is The Wisdom of Dreams, and another is a title that I particularly love, and it is, let's see, where did that one go? It's When Water, okay, Jeremy, I need you to help me with this.
Where people fly and water runs uphill.
Where people fly and water runs uphill. One of the best titles ever. So I am just thrilled to get to have this moment to connect with you before the International Association for the Study of Dreams conference comes up this June. Welcome to Dreams Unzipped, Jeremy Taylor.
Hi, Kelly. It's great to be here.
It's so wonderful to be with you. It was really fun bantering with you before we started recording. I know a few of the things I want to cover today is I want to touch on what you're going to be speaking about. You're one of the keynote presenters at our conference this year. So I want to touch on that, just give a little bit, not the whole thing, but a little bit just to tantalize people. And I also want to talk about how you have turned your nightmares not just into something positive, but you've turned them into cartoons. I love that. But let's first start talking about, let's hear a little bit about what you're going to speak on at the conference.
I tend to speak extemporaneously. I don't even work from notes.
Great.
But the prologue material that has to go into the brochures and the advertisements talks about what it means to be a dream worker and to understand that all dreams, even the tiniest fragment, have multiple layers of meaning and implication, and that only the original dreamer can say for sure what any of those are. So I'm going to be talking about how meanings and implications nest inside the remembered narrative and ways that we can help each other become more conscious of those nested layers in our own dreams.
I love that. I'm picturing the Russian nesting dolls.
Oh, absolutely. Now, imagine a nesting doll that never stops. It's always got another joint with another thing inside it.
It went all the way into the quantum level. I love that. I have to find out, what is your shirt says cautiously pessimistic? What is this? Okay. I love that we're doing.
That characterizes my mood these days. Ever since the election, I've been cautiously pessimistic.
Okay, let's go there. So for some people, they're going to be listening to the audio version of this, and some lucky people will get to see the video, and you'll get to see this wonderful black and white shirt that Jeremy's wearing, cautiously pessimistic. So do you want to say anything about what that means to you?
Oh, it means that the waking world, which we all share much more obviously than we share the dream world, although I believe we share the dream world in the same fashion, is in very dire straits these days. And that fear and nostalgia have put a shadow magnet into the presidency. And the problem with our current president is that he polarizes projections. There are the people who voted for him who project bright shadow on him, and there are the people like myself who are appalled that he got elected, who project our dark shadows on him. But it's all projection.
Right. All of it.
Yep.
Even all of it.
Yes, even all of it. And
God,
understanding projection is one of the only things that can keep us from acting out in the waking world with mistaken literalism. And we've got such technology at our fingertips that if we act out unconsciously in the world, we are in danger of destroying the planet's ability to comfortably support mammalian life. And I think this is way too nice a planet to destroy in that fashion out of a fit of pique.
It is. I absolutely agree. You know, a lot of the people in my bubble, because I realized I lived in a bubble. I didn't know I lived in a bubble before the election, and it turns out I do. And in my bubble, Trump would have never gotten elected.
That's right.
That popular.
And there is a level at which he wasn't elected. There are more than Hillary won the popular vote by more than 2 million votes.
Right.
Which means 2 million of us cast our votes and they were ignored.
Right.
Which is not how democracy ought to work.
No, it's not. But many of the people in my bubble, we've talked about the same thing, about knowing that Trump is a projection. So let's embrace our inner Trump with the intent that if we embrace him well enough, our inner Trump, that he will go away or shift or change, and there will no longer be this Trump villain that's outside ourselves.
Well, he is so changeable himself. I think we have to be careful about trying to force him to change in some spiritual strong-arm method.
Not changing him, but changing ourselves. And so there was
changing
a woman at a circle that we did a ceremony before the Women's March, and we made it very ceremonial because we didn't know that we weren't going to die the next day, because we know people that have been part of peaceful protests that were blinded or thrown in jail or wounded or injured or killed. So let us not forget Kent State. This is not a new phenomenon. Exactly. So for my friends and I, this was a first for us to really stick our necks out for something. And one woman, we were talking about how do we embrace our inner Trump, and she was crying and she was saying, I can't scrape any more off of me. I'm as kind as I can be. There's no more meanness in me. So I don't know how. And what I thought in that moment was, no, you're going the wrong direction.
Yes, I agree completely. Please say more.
So my thought was, my inner Trump, if I was going to just boil him down to a few qualities, a few adjectives, it would be audacious, blindly bold, and way overly confident, at least. I mean, there's other things I could say too, but so just looking at those qualities, I ask myself, where might those be useful in my life? If I've shunned those qualities, where might those be useful? So I've found myself being more bold lately. I wrote this article on Trumpmares, and it's going to be on NPR, and I've never spoken out politically before in my life, and it's actually empowering. And there's been a ripple effect of all kinds of positive things that are happening in the microcosm of me, because I'm embracing what I think is the qualities that he's got turned up 10 notches too high, but a little bit of that could probably be useful. So do you think
Absolutely.
you don't think I'm completely off my rocker?
I think you are at the center of what needs to happen. And what I would add to it is that Trump is currently the shadow king of American creativity. He rides this upwelling stream of emotions and ideas out of his psyche with no inhibitions at all,
Right.
including any kind of fake habitual kindness or morality or niceness. And one of the things he's done, it's a horrifying dark shadow example from where I sit, but one of the things he's done is something that virtually all creative people need to do, which is to silence the voice of the critics until the work is ready to be seen. He does not censor himself until afterwards.
Right.
And we all of us who are attempting to bring our creative energies forth into the world need to give up everything habitual, including our habitual sense of what's moral. Habitual morality is not morality.
Right.
It's, well, my experience in the dream world is that habits often show up in the dream narrative as machines.
Right.
And you can't have mechanical compassion. You can't have mechanical love. And the moment it becomes habitual, the moment it isn't constantly being bathed in increasing self-awareness, that's what it becomes. And it's very shocking. It's hard to deal with. But one of the things that's happening is that Trump is presenting us with things that even his inner circle can't deal with.
Right.
And it's because he rides this bubbling spring which isn't ready for prime time, no matter what he thinks, but which is a model of how creativity actually works.
I love this. Barbara Marx Hubbard said that she believes Trump is the biggest evolutionary driver of recent history.
Well, I'm sure she's right. I do not have blithe confidence that history is inevitably directed toward the achievement of health and wholeness. It's certainly directed toward the striving, but the achievement has to have consciousness with it.
Right. Well, tell us what you've done. You said that you had a nightmare, a Trumpmare, as I like to call it, and you did something. What I so love this. I mean, this is kind of the bandwagon. This is the drum I'm always pounding. If something negative, whether it be a nightmare or something in your waking life happens, do something creative with it. And then you're no longer at its effect. You become empowered by it. And you turned your Trump-tastrophe into a cartoon. So tell us what we're looking at here on the screen.
Yeah, well, the little rat down in the lower left-hand corner says it. I dreamed it all 2 nights in a row. The general design of this splash page, a page with a single panel, and then the night afterwards, I dreamed almost all of the specific wording. Even a little narcissistic ego campfire can cast a huge shadow, for example. And then putting words into the president's own mouth, I've put my brand on the whole nation. Today, the United States, tomorrow, the world. And then there's a little rat looking directly out at the viewer saying, we've survived all this before. Let's hope we can do it again.
Wow. He doesn't see it, but we do.
Yes, exactly so. Exactly so.
So this is exactly what you dreamt, or this is related to what you dreamt, obviously
Well,
taking over the
if you
world. And
if you combine the 2 nights dreaming, it is exactly what I dreamt.
wow.
Uh, my graphic ability was
Pretty
not up
impressive. Is
to
pretty impressive.
asking. Well, you can see there's a little 3D Trump in front of the campfire,
Yeah.
and there's the big shadow Trump behind him. In my original dream, that relationship was much more visible, but
Mm.
I couldn't. It's a pretty busy frame anyway. I couldn't. My drawing skills were not up to making it clear, other than just by the gesture, that all of the stuff behind this little narcissist is shadow exaggeration, bullying made fashionable,
Right.
civility abandoned,
Mm.
racism, jingoism, bigotry, cruel mockery, hope lost,
Torture sanctioned.
torture sanctioned, triumph of stupidity, free speech dismantled,
Wow.
ecosystem degraded even further.
And for those who don't know about you, you've been an activist for a long time, and
I've been
a
an
social activist. So
activist.
this must just
Yeah.
burn you. Was this a catalyst? Did it help you? I mean, not a catalyst, but did it help you to feel, I don't know, better? What did this do for you, adding creativity, creating this Trumptastrophe cartoon?
Yeah, well, I've written several books with no pictures,
Mhm.
and they've been read by lovely people who read books with no pictures. But it has also seemed to me very important for a deeper understanding of our dreams and how they actually work, to get out to a larger audience, not just English-speaking audience in North America, but around the world. And I have a professional comic artist's friend, Rick Veitch, who has devoted his life to making cartoons about profound questions and profound matters. And I have followed his lead for a long time. And I don't know if this particular cartoon has been translated into multiple languages, but several of my comic strips have been.
Well, let's
Some
see.
of them legally with, royalty and rights changing hands, and some of them illegally.
Oh, wow.
But that imitation is the
Mm.
most sincere form of flattery that I know. So I am not distressed. And since I publish these things myself, I don't have publishers yelling at me that people are using my stuff without permission and they're losing money. I'm the only one who's losing money, and I don't mind.
Or you're spreading your message and you're fulfilling your mission on the
Well, see,
planet. Maybe a little bit of that.
That's what I hope. I've worked for more than a decade in person, in the flesh, in South Korea, and I'm continuing to work with people that I got to know there, and a bunch more people who are brought in by them whom I've never met in the flesh, but I work with them face to face about once a month through streaming video, much the way we're working right now.
Mm.
And virtually all the cartoons that I have made have been translated into Korean and published there, and they've been picked up other places.
That's great.
Somebody sent me a bandit translation of Where People Fly in Russian.
Oh, that's great.
And it's just very cheering to know that this stuff is getting out into the world, because I think it is It is the ideas, particularly the idea that everything that we think of as objective reality in the waking world is in fact a tissue of projection. It's an unconscious process. We don't do it on purpose, and therefore simply conscious decisions not to do it are doomed to failure.
So what do we do with this then? Is there something to be said about owning our Trump projection, our Trump rejection, whatever we want to call that? Is there
Absolutely.
so to the point where we're no longer traumatized or afraid to wake up in the morning or get ballistic every time we turn on the TV?
Yep.
What can we do?
I think realizing, to go back to the Trumptastrophe cartoon, hooligans emboldened and violence romanticized.
Mm-hmm.
Those are testosterone poisoned statements.
Yeah.
And every man, even gay and trans men, have those energies inside us.
And women do too.
And absolutely women do too. And if we are going to be whole beings relating to other whole beings, we need to recognize that this stuff is inside us and begin to take conscious responsibility for it. And one of the ways I can take conscious responsibility is to make a cartoon of this kind, to own it as a dream. I dreamed this. And at the Gestalt level, everything in this cartoon is an aspect of my own being. Right. And rather than inflict it on everybody in my personal life who's up close enough to experience it, the best thing I can do is to treat it with a certain amount of good humor and try and get it out into the world to invite moments of recognition,
right?
Moments of self-awareness.
It makes me think of the stage of the hero's journey, the ordeal stage that's towards the end, is often thought of as or referred back to the Luke Skywalker having to come face to face with Darth Vader as his father.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like, and I had a very short snippet of a dream a while ago when I was just desperate to understand why anybody would vote for Trump. In my dream, I saw him as he was Big Daddy, and there's a bunch of little kids going, "Daddy's here. Daddy's going to protect us. Daddy's going to save us. Daddy, Daddy, Daddy." And I was like, oh, they need a Big Daddy. Yeah. I know the little kid in me wants a Big Daddy to save everything, right? So I can get that, even though he's not that. But in the hero's journey, Luke Skywalker slays Darth Vader, and he overcomes him by realizing that he is part of him. He's his father. Yes. So it feels like maybe collectively, I'm getting the chills as I say this. I haven't actually thought about this until I was sitting in your conditioning field, Dr. Jared. Oh my God, it's all coming alive to me now with this cartoon in my face. That maybe we're collectively facing this ordeal so that if we can do this individually, collectively, then maybe there's a reward on the other side.
Oh, if we manage to do it, I know there's a reward on the other side. Yeah. Now, it may not be a reward that's easy to see in our current consciousness, but if you want to go to another one of the cartoons.
Yep, I got it right here. Can you see it? Does this show?
I'm still looking.
You still see the Trump?
At tiny Trump.
That's kind of fun to say. Okay, let me stop that share. And I'm going to share this. Okay, let me see. There it is. All right, here we go. No? Do you see it?
Yep, I can see it now. Actually, if you go to the last panel,
okay.
This is all me naming my sources.
Okay. That's great. Let me just make this. All right. So I'm on the last panel.
No, that's not the last panel. There are two more.
Oh, that's all I
Did you
got.
not get them all?
I didn't. This is the only piece that I got. So maybe we'll have to tease that for the next interview that I do with you. Is
Yeah.
there anything that we can talk about regarding?
Well, sure. This is just, I was reading these two books. The Charlotte Slay book on the natural history of the ant, and Lance Owen's book, Jung in Love. And I thought I was reading Pursuing Separate Interests. But when I got to the rendition of the honey ant song in the Australian Aboriginal culture, I suddenly realized that they were intimately related, these two things that I was reading. And that projection, awake and asleep, always includes what our European ancestor called the gods and goddesses and nature spirits and whatnot, and what the Australian Aborigines call the Dreamtime ancestors. And everything we do, awake and asleep, is energized by these, the contemporary language would be archetypal forms. And the more we consciously understand the archetypal forms that we are projecting, the less likely it is that we will treat each other and the world as not me.
Right.
As
Other,
as an appropriate subject for cruel manipulation.
Right.
And that recognizing that what we project outward and think is not us, by virtue of being projected, is definitely us. And then the last panel here, which I'm very sorry you didn't get, one of the rats, who are my archetype of evolving awareness, they wander around in the comics and talk to me all the time. One of the rats says, well, that's all well and good, and then we die. What happens then? And at that point, a new figure that comes actually out of my sleeping dream memories, because I'm working in comic strip form so much, I pay particular attention to any dream memories that also take comic book form, because I figure that is a mark of approval and support for further work in that medium. So somewhere around the first of the year, I dreamed myself looking at a comic strip that I was drawing, and on it was this character that I had never seen before, a flying turtle rabbit. And it was so clear that I could draw it when I woke up. I could draw it easily. So in the last, at this point, missing panel, a little sort of child rat looks up and says, and then you die. What happens then? And the flying turtle rabbit appears and says, well, my best guess is that at that point, we return to the eternal now, which is where we've been all the time without knowing it. And that the experience we have when we're alive that is most reflective of that is our ability to remember dreams from sleep. And so the little child rat says, well, does that mean paying attention to our dreams is a good way to prepare for death? And the flying turtle rabbit says, it looks that way to me.
Oh, Dr. Jeremy Taylor, it is such a delight to talk to you. don't want this interview to ever end. I want to see all of your cartoons now. I love that you have this wonderful weave of dream work and spirituality and social activism and collective consciousness. And I love the humor. I love the little rat, and I can't wait to see the turtle rabbit. And it's a nice little tease, so that we'll see you when you come back on. You'll bring your turtle rabbit with you. And
Yes.
I want to make sure that people can also see your books and such. So let me see if I can grab those and bring them up here.
Yep.
I'm so technically savvy. Not. Yeah, I'm not.
Well, I think you're doing a great job.
Oh, thank you.
People who are fortunate enough to be watching the video are having a good time.
Oh, great. Thank you. Well, so this is where people fly and water runs uphill, and turtle rabbits show us the way to heaven on earth.
Yes.
That's one way.
Oh, look at that. You can get a hard copy for 50 cents.
What? Isn't that amazing?
And I think it's wonderful.
You know, if you were Maslow, you'd say, hey, you're at the peak of the pyramid.
Well, I don't know about
contributing, right?
pyramids, but I'm very glad to be where I am.
Yeah, you're in.
And I'm very glad to be talking to you today. I think the more we can bring, well, as we were saying earlier, I think it's a gift that America has to give to the world.
Say more about that. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, that any number of people that
he's busy. He's talking to me right now. We're talking.
That's right, and then the answering machine will get it there. That should be the end of that.
That's the turtle rabbit trying to give us a message.
Right. I hope not, because I didn't pick up. If I knew it was the turtle rabbit, I'd pick up.
Bye, Kelly. Click. You'll leave a message, I'm sure.
Right.
I'm sure.
No, that we Americans, for a number of reasons, not the least of which is that we practiced our genocidal war against the First Nations early on in our history. So we're not in the same position as, say, the South Africans are.
Mm.
And the grim truth of the matter is we virtually destroyed the First Nations of North America. But it gave us all this space. And because we have more space, essentially, than we know what to do with, which is exactly the opposite situation that the Europeans have,
right,
we can afford to be informal. And a lot of people think that American informality is just crudeness and stupidity and lack of development and general rudeness and impoliteness. But I believe being dead serious in an informal fashion is way more useful than being totally formal and trivial, which is where most formality gets us. And that we Americans are embarrassed by this constant accusation that we are prone to of being backward and colonial. But in fact, it's another shadow story. The dark shadow that is projected onto Americans for our crudeness is a model of exactly the energy that is needed for us to embrace each other across gender and class and race and even barriers of respective mental health and stability. That the informality of America announces the equality of not just human beings, but all beings.
I love that.
And that we are fully entitled to embrace it. To go, yeah.
That's the
expletive deleted. You're right. We are informal. Get with the program.
You don't have to delete anything, not with me.
Right. Well, I was thinking about your audience.
That's true.
This may be going out to larger and larger audiences.
Well, I'm embracing my my inner Trump, which means I'm offending people left, right, and center. And
Yep.
and it's okay. Even my own godmother, bless her heart, unfriended me. She did friend me back, but
Well,
you
that's
know,
good. That's good.
I think sometimes if we're not ruffling a few feathers, then we're just not expressing ourselves. We're being a
I
little bit too
believe
safe.
that's true. And I think some gesture to not ruffle feathers just for the purpose of ruffling them
Yes.
is another way of showing our deep seriousness. What we're talking about here, even though we're being very light about it, is very serious stuff.
Yes,
It
it
may
is.
be the most serious stuff that we're capable of talking about. There is, from my point of view, overwhelming evidence that the conversation about what do these dreams mean is the oldest, it is certainly the most continuous spiritual conversation that we human beings ever had.
Mm.
And there's an unbroken history of this conversation that goes through all the ups and downs of prehistory and history. This conversation has always been at the center of our spiritual experience and our spiritual lives, and has always been the front door, although now it's certainly a side door, it's
Maybe a window.
point of view, to
Right.
finding out what stuff means, what the value of our experience actually is.
Oh, and that voice that you've been hearing and that man that you've been seeing wearing the cautiously pessimistic shirt, Dr. Jeremy Taylor, he is one of the keynote speakers at the 34th Annual International Association for the Study of Dreams, that's IASD International Conference, from June 16th to June 20th. So go see him. Do you know what day you're actually speaking?
No, I don't. And in fairness, we should tell your viewers and listeners, I'm not going to be there in the flesh.
Okay.
These days, well, my wife, Kathy, is housebound, and my distaste for commercial air flying is so deep that I am constantly trying to get people who invite me to big conferences to let me participate the way you and I are talking over streaming video.
It's a sign of the times.
Yep.
I mean, of course, if I had my preference, I would love to grab you and squeeze you and hug you, as informal of an American as I am. But this is pretty awesome. This is a direct transmission.
Yeah.
There's nothing missing.
Touch is missing, and I would love to grab you and hug you too, but
In our dreams.
With that one loss,
yeah,
pretty much everything else is preserved.
Right.
And at least once a week, I now have individual DreamWork clients and small groups that I deal with, as you were saying to begin with, all over the world. So multiple times a week, I have the experience of talking about what the deeper implications and meanings of people's dreams are with live, breathing folk on the other side of the planet.
Right.
And the conversation flows and the insights are generated. And, I grew up before television. My childhood experience was shaped by radio. And yes, you can moan and groan around about how technology separates us from one another, but it also has the potential to bring us together more than any other one thing does.
Right.
And yes, we lose a certain amount of physical contact, but given how intense physical contact has a tendency to turn into violence, there's an inherently pacific quality to communicating honestly face-to-face without the opportunity of physical violence. The worst you can do is to unfriend somebody. And if that's the worst thing that happens to you that day, you're having a pretty good day.
You're having a great day. You're having a great
But if in the middle of a conversation somebody hauls off and socks you in the face, and that's the worst thing that happens to you, that's a pretty bad day.
Yeah, that's not the best thing. Well, I know you've got 4 books, and one of them is Where People Fly and Water Runs Uphill, and people love it so much that sometimes they take it and turn it into other languages without even asking permission.
That's
And
right.
then there's The Wisdom of Your Dreams, using dreams to tap into your unconscious and transform your life. Hopefully they give you credit and they give you money, but I know that Maslow would give you a standing ovation and say, you're contributing to humankind, you're making a difference. You've made a difference to me. You inspire me. I think about you all the time. I hear your voice in my head. When I think about, whenever I feel the urge to want to project outward, I see your face and I go, oh, it's me. I must embrace this aspect of me. And
Even if it looks like Donald Trump.
even if it's like a little orange Cheeto monster with, yeah,
Yes.
all of that, it's okay. And it's all part of the infinity that we are. It doesn't mean that we're all Trump. It means that there's a speck of Trump in
Yeah.
us. And maybe if we love that little speck enough, there's something, I always think there's something good at the bottom of all that
Absolutely.
expletive. There's a diamond in the rough under there, and we all have a soul somewhere. Some of us have really done our best to lose it or get rid of it, but there's still a speck of soul dust underneath.
Or at very least, kick it to the curb.
You sell it to the person with the highest bid, whatever,
Right.
whatever it takes. But we all have it, and we can get it back. God knows I've gone against myself in the past, and I had to work hard, and I've gotten it back. So I'm confident that whatever gets lost can come back.
That's right. Well, you know from your own experience that that's how it works. That's the only way to get it back.
And when it comes back, you appreciate it. It's like the prodigal
Absolutely.
son, right? He's gone,
Yes.
and he comes back, and it's like, oh, let's get the fatted calf. Let's have a celebration. Well, this conversation will continue on the realm of dreams. So if you're a lucid dreamer, don't join Dr. Jeremy Taylor and I on a parallel plane with his little rat icons and the little flying, what is it? It's a
Flying rabbit turtle.
Flying rabbit turtle. And I'm not even going to talk about now on this show the giraffe that just kissed me. Seriously, literally, that I think the flying duck turtle will appreciate. So if you want more of this, join us next time on Dreams Unzipped, and also go to the IASD conference. You can find out about it at asdreams.org, actually, asdreams.org. It's the 34th Annual International Association for the Study of Dreams Conference, June 16th through 20th, 2017 in Anaheim at the Wyndham Hotel. I will be there. I'll be one of the speakers. I'll be doing all kinds of stuff.
That's great. What are you going to be talking about?
I am going to be talking about, that's a good question. What am I talking about? One of the things I'm talking about is creativity in dreams. I'm partnered with my friend Joan Gelfand, who she had a trilogy of dreams about Ferlinghetti, and she told them to me, and I said, that's a movie. So I grabbed my husband, grabbed his camera, and we started filming in San Francisco, all around the beat poetry areas. And we created this short film starring my friend Joan reading her poems in this very beat and they play it on a loop at the Beat Poetry Museum. It's won some awards. It's playing all over. So we're going to play the film, and then we're going to talk about how to turn your dreams into creativity, like maybe a cartoon. I hadn't thought of that.
That's marvelous.
Yeah. And I'm going to be talking, the other thing I'm going to talk about is dreams and goddesses. I call them dream goddesses, the 7 major Greek goddess archetypes and how they dream through us. So that's another thing. That's a whole other ball of wax. And maybe Trumpmares too. Who knows? So Dr. Jeremy Taylor, thank you again so much for this dreamy time together. I've loved every single second and every single bit of your cartoons. Please just keep on flowing in the way that you are and keep inspiring us all. And I'll see you soon in dreams and once again on Dreams Unzipped on another day. Thank you. Sweet dreams.
Sweet dreams to everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.